And second from the right, I asked this gentleman to be on the panel because we love him dearly. This is the funniest human being I know on the planet. And how many people here grew up in New York in the 60s and watched Chuck's Kids Show on New York television? Not a very
I did.
But
how many watch Far Out Space Nuts? That's in this century. You gotta go to this century.
How many people watch Boston Legal? He's on Boston Legal. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Chuck McCann.
It's clobbering time.
All right, Chuck, we'll start with you then. I'm going to ask each person on the panel our traditional opening question. Give us a couple of the voices that people most ask you to do when they meet you. Things that they want to hear you do that character from that show. And then at the end, I'm going to ask you, each person, I want you to tell me one obscure thing you've done in voiceover that we didn't know you did. It could be a looping, it could be a commercial, it could be anything. But give us a couple animation voices that you've done first.
All right. I'll start with one a lot of people ask me to do. I'm Cocoa for Cocoa Puffs. Yahoo! Hiya, Gramps. Why, Sonny, if it isn't my boy for Cocoa Puffs, don't go cuckoo on me. Yahoo! Wahoo! Wahoo! Obscure voices.
No, stay with the interesting one. You were doing the thing from the Fantastic Four show.
Yeah, I did that. It's clobbering time. That was Ben Grimm. Did him old films and cartoons.
There's a show that some people here remember called Cool McCool. Tell them what you did. You did all the villains.
I did all the voices on that one. Yes, Hurricane Harry, I did him. And I did on DuckTales. Oh yeah, oh nasty you doing movie. Oh please, this is stuff worth. Please go to bed. And also, I was the Beagle Boys. And Bouncer, yeah.
Okay, now give us something obscure that you did.
Something obscure.
Something you looped.
Yes, sir. There was that little penguin character that Don Adams.
Tennessee Tuxedo.
Yeah. I'm sitting there watching it. Well, I wound up doing them in New York when Don was, and they put it in the commercial on Don's Life, and I said, that sounds like me. And it was. Yes, sir. I know, so we were all doing each other. Not that way, lady. Please, lady. Anyway. Hey, lady. Anyway, I did a lot of, for Dawes, I sang, how you doing, Bobo? I did that in New York with singing on Yogi Bear Works Out, Wake Up America. I did that. And I did a lot of characters in New York while people out here didn't go back to do the commercials. Why, for goodness sake? Why, what you doing, Rock? I did all the General Mills commercials as Bullwinkle back there. Oh, he just reminded me, and then I was the dog for give me more bits, more bits, more bits. Those are a few of them anyway. That's a thousand more, you know.
It's an on-camera thing, but I know people will ask you, would you recreate a moment from your most famous commercial, your most famous on-camera commercial for us?
Oh, well, I guess that, oh, I know what you're referring to. The guy opened up a medicine cabinet, and I was behind it, and I went, "Hi, guy!" That was from Right Guard. That was back, that we ran 15 years. But then I did all of the Laurel and Hardy commercials. And I'll try and recreate those wonderful people for you right now. Say, Ollie, what's that? What does this remind you of? I haven't the faintest idea. What on earth could that possibly remind me of? Well, it reminds me of Thursday. How could that possibly remind anybody of a Thursday? Well, it's simple. There's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Almost any time in a commercial or a TV show, you saw two guys doing a great impression of Laurel and Hardy. It was Jim McGeorge playing Stan, and Chuck, before he lost weight, playing Oliver Hardy. And he was a close friend of Stan Laurel's and one of the founding members of the Sons of the Desert, the official Laurel Hardy Society. All right, let's come back to this end of the table. Greg, would you break the microphone and give us your most famous Transformers voice?
Sure, I hope your cameras have condenser mics.
Me Grimlock, me Dinobot leader. Me no bozo, me king.
And in Real Monsters, I would welcome the students to class. Miss Crumb Oblina.
You're late for class.
And the show I really love called, remember a show called Duckman? There's a pig on there.
Duckman Detective Agency, Duckman 8, and this is corn-fed. Go on. And in that same register, Peter Cullen still does some, I do other. Losing my tail in the 100-acre wood. I get to hang around, probably gonna rain, usually does. At least on my house.
And how many G.I. Joes did you do?
Well, I was Cutter, who was always off to the island of no return. He may be back, he may not.
I was Firefly, one of Cobra's right-hand men, to blow things up.
And then I was Spirit, who believed that possibility and impossibility are states of mind. In my mind, there is only the positive, that which can be done.
How about from a little show called Garfield? We pay this man to do that. Greg, give us something obscure that you do.
I was the voice of Niles Crane's talking cockatoo on Frasier for 2 seasons.
Peter's a lech, Carol's a lush, Stephanie's horny.
And for Geico Motorcycle Insurance.
There's a hardcore biker named Smokey. And good news, girls, I'm dating again.
Thank you, Greg. Allison? What voices do people make you do when they meet you?
The female blood elf, always. So I went to the troll spa the other day to get a facial, and you wouldn't believe it. The woman who was doing my facial had no lower jaw. Have you ever heard that? I mean, people pay for that? Miss Naughty. Do you know what, Mr. Grumpy? I put toilet paper on your toilet seat. Sometimes I just can't help myself. obscure than ghost voicing, which is when you're not credited. So for Prince of Persia, when I helped out on Kaylina, listen, Prince, that was pretty obscure. I also, in an upcoming video game, which I cannot mention, I play a zombie. A male zombie. So, yeah, totally typecast all the time. So that was like...
People with young kids want to hear me do Will from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. I'm sorry. A lot of people love the Hermes from Futurama. I'm the official bureaucrat of the Perfect Express Company. And I did Jon Stewart, Green Lantern. Ollie from Family Guy. That's always a nice gig. You get one line per show. Sometimes I literally work for 30 seconds. It's gonna rain! Oh, okay, Phil. How about one more? Angry. It's raining sideways! Thanks for coming in. One of my favorites, it did the voice of Samurai Jack. Do not worry. No matter what it takes, we shall defeat Aku's evil.
All right, something obscure.
Well, the most obscure thing I ever done was on camera. I did a training video, a sexual harassment training video. Oh, we got a couple of people in the food service industry there. A sexual harassment training video for what was the time for the Sizzler Corporation, and from what I've been able to gather online, it is still being shown. We filmed this in 1991, and I was being sexually harassed by my manager, played by Playboy playmate Rebecca Ferrati. And apparently the sexual harassment laws haven't changed in the last 17 years. But as far as voice, I think probably the most obscure thing, I do a lot of voice matching, and sometimes someone asks you to do something that you're not sure you can do. I got asked to do a Jimmy Smits voice match. And I'm like, what does he even say? Captain Antilles, these droids will go with you, and have the protocol droids mind wiped. That was my Bail Organa. It was close enough for jazz.
Wally.
Yes.
Wally was featured, it was last week on Playboy's Girls Next Door, the Girls Next Door.
Yes, with Mr. Chuck McCann, personal friend of Hugh Hefner's. Thank you, Chuck. Yes, that was my one foray into on camera, and after I had seen it, I was like, ah! No wonder I am voiceover and don't do on camera stuff. Frightening.
Okay. Tell us some of your most popular voices.
Well, there was the Zim thing earlier, but the one I'm most asked to do, there's a lot of Family Guy voices that I do, called a utility player, where if they need one or two lines here in a different voice, they have me come in. And just a few of the characters are, there's a baby in the stretch can! Hup, 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 hup! There's how Barnaby. Brian Griffin, please come to the office. Brian Griffin. No, mucho tension, lower. Uncomfortable smoking! Peter, if you
you build a bar in this basement, your friends can come here for a beer as well. Mom, Dad, I really like Potsy. No, I mean I really like Potsy. Well, Brian.
What? I'm sorry? Oh, I was getting there. Yes. And the only other Family Guy character that I'm asked is either the Grinch. You think you have won. You think all is well. But kiss my green ass. I shall see you in hell. And then any anime fans out there? There's a little cartoon called Bleach that is kind of fun, and Renji Ibarra is the guy with the tattoos and the red hair all pulled back, and he's here to kick your ass. Thank you. I kind of pictured him as a young Jack Nicholson. And anybody play video games here at all? You played Ratchet and Clank Tools of Destruction?
So you might have come across Rusty Pete the Pirate, have you? Nobody? Alright, sorry. Erase that from your mind.
And then another Soul Calibur? Anybody play Soul Calibur?
Anybody here at the Pirate Cervantes?
Just a few, yes.
Okay, obscure.
Obscure. Well, I can't figure out exactly where in the film it is, but I looped some Bruce Willis lines in Armageddon. And I think one of them I did was, I suppose being your father doesn't mean anything, huh? And I still get a check for like $4.32. Well, they remember that, they don't remember Rusty Pete. My career is over. So,
Keith, what's the voice people most want to hear out of you?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Peter. Franklin? John, what's your name? Anyway, I have to say that this is probably the most requested voice I get from myself. You're looking at me like you don't know who I am. I'm Blue.
Saw Bambi 2 by any chance?
I played a friendly old owl in that, and I gathered everybody together for the groundhog. The groundhog. Every year we go through the same thing.
That's him. Anybody, I guess you guys play video games, I heard. There's a game called Final Fantasy 12.
I played a character named Bosch, and I was very stoic through the entire thing. People told me jokes, and I just stared blankly at them.
And another game, I'm pretty sure it's out now, called Lost Odyssey. Has anybody played that?
I played Kai! What do you mean? You don't know what it's like to live forever!
That's not a direct quote, by the way.
All right, something obscure. Would you ever loop?
That's very obscure. There used to be an internet cartoon called Little Green Men. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it, but I did it with Rob Paulson. He was kind of my foil. He played a character named Plutoni. We were little miniature aliens that were sent to Earth to take over Earth, but we didn't know we were miniature. So we would land on a barbecue and think that, the hamburger patty was our nemesis. And he was like, this ridiculous kind of little character that didn't really take anything too seriously. While I was always ready for a challenge. Quick, Plutoni, get that burger and put it on the ship. Again, probably not a direct quote. Also,
I may be one of the only ones who's ever heard of that because I wrote some of those.
Did you really? You gave me my first animated job. Thank you very much. And does anybody drink vitamin water? There's a commercial with Shaquille O'Neal on right now. And I'm the guy who's going, and here comes new jockey Shaquille O'Neal on a Clydesdale, half Clydesdale on the other side, chunk of love. And of course I can't remember any of those lines because I was saying them 500 words a minute. Thank you, Keith.
Here, I'm going to do a commercial. Tomorrow, there's probably a few people in this room who are interested in the question, how do I become a cartoon voice actor? What's involved in this? At the moment, there's some wonderful teachers and there's some wonderful coaches out there and lessons and plans you can do. There are also some rather, what shall we say, rip-offs, shady rip-offs, sleazy, take your money and tell you the wrong information things, and we want to try to stop this a little bit. Tomorrow at noon in room 7AB, down the hall here, we're going to be doing a panel. It's going to be not for entertainment value, it's just going to be for the nuts and bolts of people who are interested in getting into the business. Greg will be on it. We're going to have some agents, we're going to have some managers, we're going to have some casting people, and for an hour we're going to tell you just the basics of what not to do, what to do if you're interested in it. If you are interested in a career in cartoon voices, I want to know about demos or managers or agents, come to that panel. And if you enjoyed this panel, or even if you didn't, we're going to have another voice panel at 1:15 tomorrow in room 6B with 6 other people doing basically the same questions and the same script. We're going to throw these people in later, but they'll be different people, so it'll be a much more entertaining panel. This is why they do the lines and I direct. Anyway, so that's tomorrow at 1:15. It'll be equally entertaining, or maybe a little less. Okay. Earl, you got a question for these folks?
Okay, we'll go down the row, and I want you to tell everyone somebody that you worked with that you were really impressed to be sitting across the microphone from. Wow, I can't believe I'm working with.
Oh my God, almost everyone. I mean, especially early on, I was starstruck then, I'm still starstruck, and in general in life, by the genuine one-of-a-kinds, Chuck McCann included. One of the first jobs I did at Hanna-Barbera, I was seated next to Mel Blanc. Dawes Butler was in the room. Well, I've done Garfield's with Jonathan Winters and also Hanna-Barbera shows. Just sat waiting for him to hold court as long as possible before they would say, "Can we please get back to the script?" Any of these people that I mean, I grew up on with, you know, and you never really. And I'm not underselling the contribution of me walking in the room or any of us walking in the room ever. But you know, we have people who are legendary to us as well, and until you're in this talent pool, there's no opportunity to meet them. Then there's some opportunity to meet them, minute opportunity to work with them, and you know, tell them face to face and eye to eye how much they mean to you and have meant to you. Long answer, short question.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. Allison, when you worked with, you couldn't believe it.
I had the same experience when I walked in for the first day recording Mr. Men's show to find out that I was recording with Sunny Gummy Katie Lee. I grew up watching Gummy Bears, watching the Muppet Babies show, and I'm like, Baby Rolf is my co-star. Baby Rolf! So working with her has been amazing. She's just such a veteran and just such a cool person.
And Katie Lee will be on our panel tomorrow.
Yeah. Working with Keith Ferguson, showing up. Keith happens to be a friend of mine. Oh, stop. One day I show up to work and I'm like, Keith, you're here? Oh my God! I haven't seen you since lunch yesterday. But working with him was really awesome. I mean, every day new surprises in this job, which is really great.
Phil, who are you impressed to be sharing a studio with?
Well, sort of, it's actually two stories, because my very first professional job of any kind was a voiceover job. When I was in high school, I did a voice on the Mr. T cartoon back in 1983. This was when Mr. T was so hot, he had to have everything. Movies, TV shows, cartoons, everything. But there was one episode of the show that we had some guest stars. We had Paul Winchell, June Foray, and I believe it was Henry Corden. Like all these 3 people came in, and I didn't recognize them because I'd never seen them before. But then they all started to talk just among themselves, and it was like their voices were in stereo. You know, I mean, it's Tigger and it's Fred Flintstone. Well, hello everybody, how are you? And they're just like, they're vibrating, and like, and you go, oh my God, they're real.
Bill, let me interrupt you a second. The Mr. T cartoon show was produced by an animation studio called Ruby Spears. It also did Thunder the Barbarian. They did Plastic Man. They did Heathcliff cartoon show. Before that, the guys at Ruby and Spears created Scooby-Doo. They created Jabberjaw, Dynamite. They're in our audience. Would you stand up and think about Joe Ruby and Ken Spears?
No way!
Yay! Joe and Ken?
Hi, boss. If this were a reality show, I think that was a setup.
But you didn't know they were there, did you? Okay. Who else were you impressed to work with?
As far as being impressed, I remember when I started back to voiceover, one of the first series I worked on was Futurama. And I just remember working with Billy West for the first time. In the first episode of Futurama, Billy was playing 3 characters. He was playing Fry, Professor Farnsworth, and Dr. Zoidberg. And it being sort of an introductory episode, there's an episode where the professor introduces Fry to Dr. Zoidberg. And he recorded this scene on the fly, switching back and forth from from young, Billy sounding voice to ancient old professor to this bizarre lobster voice that I don't even know how he does it. And if you go back and watch that episode, there is absolutely no way you can tell it's one human being. I mean, he even seems to overlap himself. I don't know.
What were the characters again? He did the 3 characters?
He did Fry, the main character on Futurama, Professor Farnsworth, and Dr. Zoidberg.
Okay, now, Billy's on the voice panel tomorrow. We're going to make him do those. This, of course, is assuming he doesn't get the flu. All right. Wally, somebody you were impressed to work with.
Well, I've been really lucky to work with who I consider to be two legends, but in different kind of scopes. One a classic legend and one a fairly new legend. The classic legend would be the great Frank Welker. We're working on the new Garfield cartoon under the direction of Mr. Evanier here, and I purposely set my chair in the studio across from Frank's, because there's Greg and Frank over here, and then myself and Jason Marsden and whoever the guest is that week over here. So I can sit there like this and watch Frank work. And the guy has the most amazing, when you screw up, like bloopers, he has the most amazing bloopers. He'll screw up, but he'll keep on going, and it'll be amazing, probably more amazing than anything that's ever in a script. But the guy just, of course, not one of Mark's scripts, but his goof-ups are genius, and it's like, wow, this is something. People would pay big money to sit in this chair where I'm sitting, and I'm actually getting paid to be here and watch the Frank Welker show. It's amazing.
Greg and Wally at the recording sessions have been trying to convince Frank, along with me, to come down here and do it. And he's now got to the point where he says to me, Mark, I promise you I'll do it someday.
We're getting closer.
Yeah, that's right. And one of these days, I will be able to announce that we're going to have Frank Welker at one of these panels, and we may just get nobody else on it because it takes forever. And if you kill to get into that panel anyway. Who else?
Well, the new legend is Mr. Seth Macfarlane. In the old days, because I've been on Family Guy since about the first episode when I did Pat Summerall and then I did Bert and Ernie, the whole thing. Well, Ernie, I hate it when you eat cookies in the damn bed! But Seth used to be, David Zuckerman, who's the producer, used to direct those sessions before Seth started taking over the directing responsibilities. You remember those days, right? Where Seth was in the booth with us.
Right.
And there would be about 4 or 5 mics, and it'd be Patrick Bristow and myself and Seth Green and probably you and me and and we would sing Cats in the Cradle as a bunch of trees or something. but watching Seth go down the script was the same thing with Billy. There'd be Peter, and there'd be Brian, and there'd be Stewie, and there'd be Quagmire, and there'd be all these lines, and Seth would just go into it one after another, and just flawlessly, seamlessly change these characters. And it was really something to see, and I'm so happy for him that he is enjoying the success of Family Guy and American Dad, and now a soon-to-be 3rd series, The Cleveland Show. So God bless Seth MacFarlane, that's what I say. So yes, 2 legends.
Who have you worked with in voiceover? Who impressed you to be working with?
Well, that when radio was gas-driven. I go back.
Tilt the mic up a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should know, right? A voiceover guy doesn't know what a microphone is. Hello? Is this, I gotta say, right off the bat, my dear good friend, Mel Blanc, who created so many wonderful voices. And Dawes Butler, and all these wonderful people. Hans Conried, who is so magnificent. And, I mean, it just goes on and on. And Smith, who did so many voices. And of course, June Foray, who I see every Thursday. We love Wally. I grabbed Wally down, and we went to this big band concert. And June sits down there with me, and we do Rocky and all those voices while we're listening to a 17-piece band. You know. I mean, there were so many great people, but the thrill, actually, for me, is to, you know, this business has been so wonderful to me. I've been in it since I've been 6 years of age, and I started in radio, and I've been doing voices all this time. And I've done many, many things. I wore many, many hats, and I never closed the door. I keep all doors open. My acting door, my voiceover door. It's the way you make a living in this business. And it's just to keep everything going, you know? And meeting guys like Ruby Spears and Ruby and Spears with like Ken and Joe was so wonderful to me when I did Far Out Space Nuts. They came in, Earl Dowd and I wrote that, and I created that series. And I couldn't have done it without the help of these wonderful, wonderful creative writers. And these guys that put the words in our mouths, that's so important. Those are really the people behind the scenes that direct the cartoons. Because what we do as voiceover artists is create the attitudes that the animators ultimately take and hear and inspire. We inspire them to create those moves and images. I mean, if it wasn't for, hey Doc, come on over here. I got a cigar for you. Whoa, thanks, Wabbit. Here, let me light it for you. Oh, one day I'm gonna kill that Wabbit. You know, so, but in essence, it's what those little nuances in his voice did that created those wonderful images in the minds of the animators. So that's why they do, thank God, they do the voices first, and rather than animate, because we'd be dead without those wonderful men doing the wonderful animation. And now it's going into the future, and just working with these young guys. I mean, to go in with Wally Wingert and all of these people on the panel, and to work with them now. I'm retired, you know, and I bow to these people. They're so wonderful. But they were inspired by us, and I was inspired by those people. So, you know, you carry on. You know, you're going to be inspired by them. Come on, you know, take the class tomorrow and find out whether you're right or not. Okay, just have a good time and keep the doors open.
Chuck is lying. He's not retired. He works more than anybody I know in this business. But aside from that, Keith?
Well, I'm glad.
No, I'm kidding. I mean, it's really hard to pick one. It seems like every time I walk into a session, I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh. I mean, the very first session, I'm a voiceover actor. The very first session I did, I mentioned, our very first animated session with Rob Paulson was, I mean, I just couldn't believe it. Like, this is my first animated series for the internet, and I'm sitting across from one of the Animaniacs, I'm sitting across from Pinky, and he's doing them. I mean, he's just like, whenever we're down, he's doing the voices. And I tend to be like a fan of, like when I first started doing Fosters, I tend to be a fan of people not just because of their voiceover careers, but like Phil Lamar, I'd watch Mad TV I don't know how many times. I'm serious. I never told you, man. I never told you. And Tom Kenny, I mean, I followed his stand-up career when I was like a teenager. And I actually approached him before I ever got into voiceover. I was in Jerry's Deli, and I approached him just kind of a nervous fan, and I'm like, I love your stand-up, and I started reciting his stand-up routine. And he was so gracious. He was like, oh, you validated my life, and I've never told him that. I've grown a beard since then. I don't think he recognizes me. Nobody tell him that was me. I mean, yeah, it's amazing because everybody that I seem to work with, they're talented in so many ways. And just to see that this is just another way that they are talented, now I get to work with them because of that. I mean, he's not specifically a voiceover actor, although he's done quite a few things. One of my most like starstruck moments, just in the general sense, was I did a pilot, a voiceover, an animated series, or well, pilot, with Dustin Hoffman. And I can't even tell you, I'm sitting next to Tootsie, and it was all I could do. It actually made my performance better because I just couldn't pay attention to him. I just had to focus on my performance. It's unbelievable. And the first VO job, first professional VO job I actually ever had, I was doing some like incidental voices on the Donnie and Marie show. The talk show, not the original one. And Dick Clark was the executive producer of the show, and he came in and started directing me. And he was so gracious, he was very encouraging, and of course I couldn't learn anything because I was just thinking American Band the entire time. So there's just so many people. I'm constantly just like blown away, and I feel so lucky to be working in something I love with people I admire so much.
Time now to make these people work for you. We are going to read a script here that they have not seen. This is what's called a cold reading. They have never seen this script before. This is a free adaptation of an episode of the Superman radio show that we did some heavy rewrites on to cut down and add extra parts to and things like that. And I'm going to explain, I'm going to cast it, we're going to add a little extra rule to this. Here's how this works. I'm going to assign the rules for you in a second. You got pencils there and everything?
Is this like SAT or?
Yes, that's right. Turn it over. Yes, you can turn it over. All right. Announcer number 1 will be Chuck McCann. Announcer number 2 will be Greg Berger. The narrator in here will be Wally Wingert. In the opening, there is a man number 1. There is a woman number 1, and a man number 2, and a man number 3. Keith, would you be all 4 of those roles, please?
Including the woman? Yes, I will.
Okay. The role of Jimmy Olsen will be played by Wally. Phil, you get to be Superman and Clark Kent. All right. Ellison, you're going to be Lara, Jor-El's wife. You're going to be Lois Lane. You're going to be, there's a cat that's got a screech in here later on. You'll be the cat also. Let's see here now. We've got, Perry White. Chuck, you're Perry White.
Okay.
Elder number 1, Keith. Elder
Yes.
number 2, Phil. Elder number 3, Wally. Jor-El, Greg. Ma and Pa Kent are in here. Chuck, you will be both Ma and Pa Kent. There's a guy in here called Man in Danger. Keith, you will be Man in Danger. There's a news reporter. That will be Phil. There is at the end a guy called Shadowy Figure. That will be Greg.
I love that it's a news reporter.
That's right.
It's actually, back then you didn't need to say, so these reporters reporting news. Nowadays, it's like, is it an entertainment reporter or a news reporter?
Now, we have an extra added rule to this. As you do the script, at varying times, I will say the word change. If I say the word change, read the exact same line again in a different voice. Then after that, you may go on in the same voice you just did, or you may return to the original voice, whichever you prefer. When I say change, just change the voice completely and read the same line again. All right, do you have any questions, anybody? You got all your parts assigned. Keep in mind, folks, they have never seen this copy before. And by the way, we're going to stick the people tomorrow with the exact same scripts so you can see what they do with the same thing. So don't tell them. Yes. All right. When we are ready, Keith, you will start.
All right.
For us.
Look, up there in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane!
No, it's Superman!
Very politically correct, thank you.
Yes, it's Superman, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men or immoral men. Thank you. Superman, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, and that is newspaper, thank you, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way! God bless you. The Adventures of Superman will begin right after this word from Kellogg's Pep.
Pep. You know, they say that time flies, and you know these days when you're busy rounding out your collection of comics buttons from packages of Kellogg's Pep, why, it seems that time flies with the speed of Superman. Why, almost before you know it, you're close to having all 18 buttons in the series. And it's mighty exciting when Mom opens a new package of Pep to see which button is inside. And you get some grand eating, too, because these whole wheat flakes are loaded with that sunny, golden toasted flavor, crisp and fresh and tasty as can be. A swell breakfast dish. That's the Sunshine Cereal Gang, Kellogg's Pep.
And now, the Adventures of Superman.
Change. Chuck, read it again. Different voice.
And now,
The Adventures of Superman. Criminy sakes. You know him. Got with a cape, all dressed in blue. Of course. He's super. Because he's a man. I think.
Yes. Oh, I'm waiting for more brilliance, but that's okay. I can listen to him all day.
far off on the planet Krypton, the distinguished scientist known as Jor-El addresses the Council of Elders.
And in summation, I conclude with great reluctance that our beloved planet of Krypton is doomed. Our only hope for survival is to build spacecrafts and flee to another planet. Earth, for instance.
Oh, I have heard enough of this. I think we've all heard more than enough. It is sad, Jor-El. You were once one of our most respected scientists, and now you come before us with this madness!
You do not believe my research?
Not a word of it.
Krypton is as sound as the very dirt beneath our feet. And why don't you sound like Marlon Brando?
Too obvious. If you will just look again at my charts and test results.
Oh, blah, blah, blah. You've had your time, Jor-El. We have other, more pressing matters to address. Good day.
Change.
We have other, more pressing matters to address. Good day.
Change.
We have other more pressing matters to address. Good day.
More pressing than the total destruction of our planet.
Change.
More pressing than the total destruction of our planet.
Change.
More pressing than the total destruction of our planet.
time to address us is up.
Oh, dejected and frustrated.
Those page turns will switch every time.
Dejected and frustrated, Jor-El departs the council and returns to the home he shares with his beloved wife, Lara, and their infant son, Kal-El.
From your expression, I take it they did not heed your warning.
I expected skepticism, Laura. I did not expect to be practically laughed from the hall.
The council will come to understand you are right. They must, for the good of all. I think that every time I look at our son, Kal-El.
I only pray there is time.
Almost as if in defiance, the entire world of Krypton begins to shake.
What is it, Jor-El?
It is the beginning of the end. The threat will only get worse.
Is there nothing we can do?
You, Laura, you can escape to birth in it.
Oh, my place is at your side, Jor-El. If anyone is to escape, it should be Kal-El.
Change.
My place is at your side, Jor-El. If anyone is to escape, it should be Kal-El.
As the buildings continue to shake and crumble, Jor-El quickly agrees. Their young son is wrapped in blankets and placed into the tiny rocket.
Farewell, my son.
And with that, Jor-El presses the button that launches his son towards Earth. No offense, of space. The small craft hurdles, like I'm about to after Phil catches me out back. Right on the door. While behind it, the planet known as Krypton trembles, then explodes. Millions of miles away in a sleepy Midwestern town, a pickup truck makes its way down a highway. Its inhabitants, the Kents, cannot help but notice something in the sky.
Who's that man with his hand up to his ear?
Like a rocket, Ma. Look!
The tiny rocket.
Maybe it'll come soon down from up there. Perhaps. In a moment. Whenever.
Get his hand off his ear. Maybe he'll continue.
All right. Can you go now, boy?
Yes, sir. A tiny rocket crash
Atlantic Ocean. You better step on it.
Why, I think it's a baby. I've never seen anything so astounding in all my life.
Yeah. It's a wonder Pa doesn't play around with me. We've never had one of our own. The rocket brought this one though, and I'm gonna take good care of it. Aren't I, Pa?
Well, take a look. That baby is lifting up our goddamn truck. What's that baby lifting up? Jeez, that bird's gonna get a hernia. The totally platonic Kents raised the child as their own. Naming him Clark and guiding him to adulthood. But the world would soon know him by another name. Years later, in the city of Metropolis, in the office of its leading newspaper, the Daily Planet. All right, Miss Carter, where's the new reporter? Miss Carter? Miss Carter!
Clark Kent,
Yes, Jesus Christ! God damn it, Miss Carter, where are you? You've been in the book room again. I don't want you playing around with that Clark guy. Clark, or whatever his name is. Now, where is he? That
He was here a moment ago, Mr. White. I just said that.
Oh, anything I can handle, Mr. White? Oh, yes, that's you.
That's my line, Mr. White. Anything I can handle for you, Mr. White? Sir?
I don't trust this kid. I don't know where it came from. But anyway, look, kid, it's all yours, Miss Lane. The kid, everything. There's a man dangling from a dirigible flying over the metropolis.
Shock, you skipped 2 lines.
I skipped a line. I skipped to Malou. Wait a minute. Now, this story calls for a reporter, Olson, not a copy boy. Can't even fresh up my lunch without spilling it all over himself.
That's not my lunch, sir.
Oh, Jesus, clean up, will you, boy? I'm not eating that.
If you need a reporter, I'm right here, Chief.
It's all yours, Miss Lane. There's a man dangling from a dirigible flying over the metropolis. Some member of the ground crew got tangled up in the cable or something. Kind of like a puppeteer.
I heard you were looking for me, Mr. White.
Yeah. Well, Kent, if you want to have a career at this paper, you need to be around when I need you.
I'm sorry, sir. I got trapped in the restroom, but the janitor got me out, so I'm ready for my assignment.
Was there a shoe to the left of you? You're not in politics, are you, boy?
A fella tapped my shoe. I didn't think it meant anything.
Yeah. Don't you watch the news?
He just gave your assignment to me, Clark. Chief, why can't the dirigible just land?
I don't know. Something about its rudder getting tangled in a rope. He's dangling from it. Now, come on. Just cover the story, will you?
Oh, I'll drive you, Miss Lane.
Perhaps I could come along and help.
You can just go back to the restroom, Clark. You seem to have a good time there. We'll send the janitor to get you out if we need you.
As the intrepid Lois Lane rushes off to cover the story, Clark Kent sneaks off to a deserted stock room.
This looks like a job
for Superman. Up, and away! Tossing aside his reporter disguise, the Man of Steel launches him across the skyline of Metropolis, heading for where a man dangles in terror from a dirigible.
I'm a man dangling in terror from a dirigible. Please, somebody help me!
There he is, Miss Lane! Up there!
Oh, that poor man. I don't see how anyone can possibly help him. He's doomed.
Thanks a lot, lady!
Wait! Who or what is that? It's Superman!
Yes, like Pedro said, the figure of Superman streaks to the rescue.
Sorry it took me so long, sir. There were a couple of Zeppelins and a gyrocopter ahead of you. But don't worry, I'll save you.
To the man shocked, the blue-clad figure untangles him from the line, then carries him safely down to the ground below.
Here you are, safe and sound. And I see that the dirigible is about to make a safe landing nearby.
I don't mean to sound like an ingrate, but who are you?
Change. Keith, do it again.
Oh! I don't mean to sound like an ingrate, but you're squeezing my ribcage.
Yes, who are you? I'm Lois Lane with the Daily Planet. I must have your whole story. Who are you, where you came from, how to reach you, your pager number?
Oh, ask him how he's able to fly.
That too.
Just call me Superman. And now, if you'll excuse me, my job here is done. Up, and away!
Wait! You didn't tell me where you came from, or how to get in touch with you,
or how to fly. Maybe it's from another planet.
Don't be silly, Jimmy.
Oh, I'm silly, all right.
But I am going to find out everything about him. Mr. Superman may not like it, but I am going to get to know him better.
Try playing hard to get for a change. Thanks to YouTube and MySpace, by nightfall, all of Metropolis have heard and seen this amazing stranger.
After rescuing the airfield worker, the man who calls himself Superman stopped a robbery at the First National Bank of Metropolis. Eyewitnesses report that he not only flew under his own power, but crashed through a brick wall, lunged at a bank robber's car, and even repelled bullets with his chest.
How's the weather, Ollie?
It's gonna rain!
Yes, everyone is intrigued, including a few people in this audience. But none more so than a shadowy figure in an expensive apartment across town who sits listening to the radio as he pets his favorite pussy, cat.
Oh, behave, baby.
Over here in the shadows. It's me, the shadowy figure. A man with such powers, he could come in very useful in my place.
Meow.
He cannot say no. No one can refuse a shadowy figure like me. Not even a man who could fly and repel bullets. Oh, you'll see.
Meow.
Well, who is this shadowy man? And what sinister plan does he have against the good people of Metropolis? Don't miss the next exciting episode of Blondie. Oh,
to some questions. Earl, yeah.
Okay, this gets into the territory of what we'll be talking about tomorrow a little bit, but let's sort of do a preview. Tell us how you got your first job in the business and what was that first job? We'll start with Greg.
Well, that's, there's levels to that answer. I'll go all the way back to the beginning of the beginning. I started as an actor. I was working with a repertory company. There was somebody in a play that I was in that had a side job at the local PBS affiliate in St. Louis, Channel 9 KETC. Told me that they were working on a puppet show, and I had done some just clowning around in the dressing room voices and stuff. And he said, you should come down and audition for it, and I got it. And he said, oh, by the way, I should have asked you, are you a puppeteer? lying through my teeth, I said, of course. And so I sort of learned basic puppeteering on the fly. But the best way to get work, keep work, and stay working is say yes and figure out how to do it before it's time to actually do it.
Allison?
I think it was interactive learning for Prentice Hall textbooks. I spent about 6 months back when I was living in Boston, which is where I'm from, basically teaching people about science. So it was everything from the galaxy solar system, and apparently I don't really know science very well because I can't even insert the appropriate words here. But the galaxy solar system, Earth, Jupiter, Saturn, Mars. So it was just like 6 months of reading, textbook copy, and it was like the best job I ever had. I was like, bring it, yeah. That's great.
Phil?
My first job was courtesy of Ruby Spears with the Mr. T cartoon. They were hiring real kids to do the kids' voices. The premise of the cartoon was Mr. T was the coach of a gymnastics team that went around the country, wherever the meets were, solving mysteries. Hey, but a lot of mysteries to be solved in the early mid-'80s. I auditioned for it because they were looking at professional kids and non-professional kids, and I had done plays at that point in junior high and high school, and I got the job. And for 3 years, it was a great summer gig. We just did it in the summers when we were out of school, and I never got to meet Mr. T. Did you guys ever get to meet? I did, once or twice. And that's how I got my SAG card, and then of course I didn't work again in voiceover for 10 years.
Wally?
Hi, Quentin. Quentin Flynn, everybody, in the front row there. Say hi to everybody. What a great...
Right there.
Come on, just give me one flame on, just because Chuck's here.
Flame on!
There you go. He was Johnny Storm when Chuck was the thing, but I'm a comic book cartoon geek, so I digress. Anyway,
there are no geeks here, Wally. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot where I was. The very first, Jeff Nimoy, the great Jeff Nimoy and Quentin Flynn signing till 3. Awesome, for Adventures in Anime. Awesome.
Plug away!
Thanks, Q.
Kids, that's what's known in the business as a cameo.
Yes.
The Nutty Irishman.
You better believe it.
The first job I ever got was on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air as a lottery announcer. It was something like, and today's winning numbers are 6, 27, 13.
Uncle Phil, that's my numbers. I won. Well, sit down.
That's pretty much how it went.
Chuck?
Oh.
What was your first voiceover job, Chuck?
You were 6.
My first job was with Thomas Alva Edison. And then I went over to the Marconi Company. And I told him, why don't you get a box and have my voice come out of it rather than just be talking in this stick? And he said, that's a good idea. And he invented the radio. And then I went on. I was 6 when I first did my first radio show. I was 6 years old, and it was on a show called It's Maritime on CBS, and that was 1930. And then I wound up puppeteering, and because I was one of those crazy kids that did I had 80 bazillion voices going around in my head because I grew up with radio, and radio was the theater of the mind. So I grew up with Henry Aldrich, coming mother. You know, you do all of those. You wouldn't know who these people are. It's like it would be like me in my day and say, and now I'm going to do President Polk. What is the man thinking about? Well, I could do it. You wouldn't know who the hell he was, right? Hello, here's President Polk, ladies and gentlemen.
That's perfect. Dead on.
Anyway, so, but these voices, like Lionel Barrymore, "Wait, for crying out loud, don't tell me that." You know, I mean, so I grew up with these voices going on in my head from radio, and then I went to puppets, and so they needed voices, so I wound up doing a show called Rudy Kazootie on NBC. This is like, you ask your great-grandmother about that. That was when we had gas-driven television, and a pilot was something you lit. I just did a pilot. I said, yeah, we used to do it too. And you had to wait until it warmed up before Ed Sullivan came on. And Arthur Godfrey. Anyway, so then I went on to obscurity. And I kept doing it, and thank God.
Okay, well, give Chuck some oxygen. Keith, would you tell us when your first job?
Well, I think I mentioned I did some VO for the Donnie Marie show, and that was actually before I had an agent. I worked in TV production for about 6 years, kind of got into it because I was doing plays, and someone I knew got me into it, because I wasn't earning any money before. And so I was doing a bunch of that, but then I took a VO workshop, and I got my agent, and so the first thing she sent me out on, this is total fluke, but I actually booked a small little radio spot for, I think it was Hollywood Video. They did this thing called 60-second movie, and they would take any film and boil the whole thing down to 60 seconds. So I did The Matrix, and I was Keanu Reeves. And I worked with another person whose name eludes me, but she was on Mad TV, and she used to do Alanis Morissette all the time. Do you know who that is?
Deborah Wilson?
No.
Oh, Lisa Kudrow.
Yes. She played Trinity. So again, I walked right into a situation where I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody's famous. So that was my first thing.
Right, thank you, Jeff.
Mark, can you please develop the series Chuck McCann's Steampunk Parallel Universe? The gas-driven TVs and seriously, I want to see that somewhere.
I just love, every so often I like to just sit and listen to Chuck tell stories. This man is the best storyteller in the world. Now, speaking of breaking into the business, once more let me remind you, tomorrow at noon in room 7AB, we'll be doing a how to break into the business and what to watch out for, how to avoid the sharks who will prey on innocent young voiceover talent. If you're interested in voiceovers, that's the panel you want to be. At 1:15, we'll be back in room 6B with 6 other people reading the same script. I can't imagine they're going to top what these folks did, but they're going to try. We are out of time. Would you join me in thanking Mr. Keith Ferguson, Mr. Greg Berger, Allison Pepper, Bill Lamar, Wally Windman, and the legendary Chuck McCann. Thank you.
And Mark Gavinier, ladies and gentlemen.
I am now at the halfway mark of my panels.